We are recording.
Yay.
This is Whitney Ellison. Hi, everybody. I'm here with Raena Boston from the Working Momtras. We are on episode 11, week 11, 11, 11, right, of the Enneagram Entrepreneur interviews. And we are pre-recording this to ensure that the quality of the recording is good for when we repost it on Instagram. So, Raena, thank you so much for joining me. And you're talking to me from Florida, right?
Yes, thank you for having me. It's overcast here today. It's cold for us. It's like in the 60s this morning. So, I have my sweater on. This
Sounds
is
amazing.
chilly for us in April or March. Gosh,
Well,
what is time?
I know it's not real. You know that, right? Like it's not. Like I have weekdays. It's just one day every day. I don't. That's why I miss my daughter's piano lessons every week because I forget that Mondays happen. So totally get it. So it's in the 60s here in the Midwest, and I'm right across the river from Cincinnati, Ohio. Now, unlike you, that's a warm day for us. So I am not wearing a sweater. But so are you in the Tampa Bay area? Is that right?
I am. I'm closer to St.
Cool.
Pete. I'm about
Oh my gosh.
10 minutes from the beach or so.
Oh, I love St. Pete. I like to visit there when I can. Well, that is awesome. Well, let's talk about the Enneagram. First I should say, why don't we go ahead and start with an introduction? Can you tell us a little bit about yourself, about your business, and anything you want to share?
Sure. So my name is Raena. By day, I work in HR for a professional services firm. And then in any other time, I am the main person, the founder at the Working Momtras. And that is just a space where I talk about mom stuff. And I try and post a momtra or a mantra every week on Mondays typically, and I tell stories throughout the week that connect back to the mantra. So we do a lot of reflecting and talking and chatting on that little corner of the internet. And it's really just, I'm like letting the space tell me what it's going to be. Because I had all these thoughts when I first started it that it was going to be really focused heavily on working mom content. Then the pandemic happened, and I was like, I think that time of just being home, even though my kids stayed in preschool because my husband is a healthcare worker, really showed me that all moms work. Whether you're homeschooling, like if that's what you're doing while you are a stay-at-home mom, or you're work from home, or you're part-time working, or you're stay-at-home mom, it's all work. It's all labor. Just because the economy doesn't place a certain value on it doesn't mean that it's not work. So this space has really just evolved, I think. And it's also just been more of me writing and seeing where that is going to take me. I'm just really open, which is kind of scary for me because I want to have a plan and I want to know exactly what we're doing and all the steps I can take to get there. But really, I've just kind of taken a step back and let this space tell me what it's supposed to be.
I love that so much. That really, for me, that really speaks to how we use our energy and like allow things to flow, right? And kind of detach from that outcome, knowing that it's there, whatever it's supposed to be, and just letting it unfold. I think there's a lot of beauty to that. And I think to your point about the pandemic, opening up the definition of working mom to all moms is so wise and so poignant and so inclusive because that is the truth. It really, what the pandemic's done is really strip the whole system bare and expose all of the gaps. You know, whether you're a working mom, whether like working outside of the home mom versus a stay-at-home working mom, you know, whatever that looks like, all of us have been thrust this massive pressure to continue life in this new way with our children and our work, whether it's at home or outside of the home. And it's just been kind of insane. And so to allow your space to not have that attached outcome, but to just unfold as we as a society unfold in the role of motherhood and moms, I think that's beautiful and brilliant. It's better to do that than try to force it, because right now we're kind of learning who and what's really in control here. And, that's a big deal. So that's great. So thank you for sharing that. And when you decided to start the Working Momtras, what was the idea behind it? What was what was the mission that you had originally set out to do with it, and how does that look now?
I think the mission has largely remained the same in that I wanted a space for moms to feel like, or moms to get permission that they don't have to do it all. Like, that is such nonsense. Why do we have to do it all? What is all? What does that look like? How can we define all for ourselves so that we are achieving that, if that's what you want to do? And really just, I wanted a space where moms could relate to one another and also just take some of that pressure and that stress off and find who they are, because we were people before we had kids. We had interests and hobbies and goals, and so getting back to that too, and also focusing on, as a mom, I think what's important is not necessarily doing it all, but finding out whatever your strengths or your gifts are and how you can bring that to motherhood. I'm not ever going to be the mom who's like baking stuff for my kids' class or crafting stuff. That's just not me. I'm so excited that there are moms that is their passion and their gift, and that they can give that to other people. But that's not me, and that doesn't have to be me, and I don't have to feel guilty because that's not my strength or my gift. So I think the space really has just been reminding moms to remember what their gifts are and how can they convey that gift to themselves and to other people and as mothers and in their families. I think that's a better question, and that's a better why and a mission to me.
Yeah. That's awesome. So, speaking of that, like when we think about parenting and being a mom and an entrepreneur in the context of the performer achiever type 3, which is the type that you lead with, what does that look like? Because you clearly have done a lot of work in the area to develop your self-awareness of that motivation that the type 3 has, which is that desire for external success, affirmation of that success, and how that can be tied to worthiness. And so some of the things that I just heard you say really show the awareness of that motivation and being able to kind of dismantle those defense mechanisms that go along with that, for you to be able to say, I'm not going to be the mom that bakes. I'm not going to be the mom that crafts. By the way, me neither. But and being okay with that. And not only that, but being empowering to other women to understand this message. When did that arrive for you as a type 3 who, type 3s can often fall into the trap of feeling like they have to at least present as that person, in order to get that affirmation of success?
This is really at the end of me failing at trying to do that. This is just a result of life and trying to be the mom who is, like, for me, I think a lot of it manifested it as, if I'm going to breastfeed, then I need to do it for 12 months and it's got to look like this, or else it's just not worth it. And so having to failing at that, quotation marks,
right.
And learning to give myself space and grace for it, and to not have to be all or nothing. And I think that just really, a lot of times I also find myself comparing myself to other people. And I think that's normal as a 3, is that you're trying to assess how you're achieving. And so you do that by comparing yourself to other people. And I realize other people have different gifts. They have different circumstances. It's not fair to compare myself to somebody who's staying at home and breastfeeding when they don't have to find a place to pump. They don't have to remember pump parts. It's just comparing apples to oranges. And so really figuring out how to set the bar so that I could achieve it. why does somebody else get to set whatever that goal is? And then it becomes impossible for me to achieve, or it's at the expense of my mental health. How do I set the bar so low? And like that, you know, even like saying that was just like, oh, as a 3, I can't believe I'm saying set the bar low. Set the bar low enough that I can scale it, that I can achieve it, so that I can feel good about things that I am doing and that I'm able to do. Does that answer your question? Or did
Yeah. No, I think that's great. Yes, I do. But I love how you started the answer of that question, which was, I'm at the tail end of my failure, which is teaching me what's real and what's not, basically. Absolutely. And I love that you answered it that way. And so I would like to talk a little bit more. Well, first of all, acknowledge that, yes, it's definitely a 3 tendency to look externally and start comparing with others. It's also super, super natural for almost anyone to do that. 3s tend to do it in a more focused, more concentrated way. But I think a lot of people, especially with social media, are looking at others and it's dictating how they feel inside. It's dictating their self-worth because they're finding an external marker and they're comparing themselves. So what you said, I think, yes, applicable and helpful to type 3s that face this and to anybody that faces this. So I want to call that out first and just say thank you for sharing that, because that across the board is a truth. And but with that, so when you talk about like the tail end of failure, to paraphrase what you said, I think that as moms, we all kind of went through that to an extent through the pandemic in and of itself, just realizing the quote unquote failure of not being able to do it all. And then like in the midst of grieving, it became, you know, all these stages of grief. And then it was like, I never wanted to do it all in the first place. Who told me I had to? And when did I start believing that, you know? And so, so can we talk a little bit about your journey with that and what that looked like?
Yeah, sure. I think another helpful question to ask is, who profits from moms doing it all? Who benefits from that? Who makes money off of the notion that moms need to split themselves into all of these different people or things or entities or whatever? Somebody does. It's not us. And so asking myself that question has been helpful too, when I feel like, you know, at work, maybe I feel like I should be able to stay later, like do things like before I had kids. Who benefits from that? Not me. My employer does.
Right.
Benefits from that guilt and that worry and that that feeling of indebtedness that you have to work yourself out of whatever hole that's man-made, it's not real, that I need to be performing in XYZ fashion in order to achieve and still be able to be a mom. So I think it's just helpful to really sit down and question some of those beliefs and those thoughts and investigate them and see if they actually benefit you. And if they don't, they got to go. But for me, I would say even just like starting the Working Momtras, I knew that I wanted to start it. I didn't know exactly when I was going to start it, but for some reason, MLK Day is like always a big day for me starting ventures. And so I was like, I just felt inspired. So I started it on MLK Day of 2020. And then I was also about to step into a promotion, which I was excited about and a little bit nervous. And then when I started my new role in the promotion, a month later, the pandemic hit. And then I also realized, why did I want this promotion so bad? Is it because it looks a certain way to others? Because I was happy in my old role. And it quickly became clear that this was not it. Like, this was not going to be my path. And I really, really struggled with failing at that, failing at this is something that I can't achieve without great cost to my mental health. And how is it going to look to others if I don't succeed at this? And how do I manage that so that so I can control how other people see me? And I just started to realize, like, by the end of it, a few months in, like how crazy all of this was, like how I was trying to achieve something that just wasn't meant for me. And it's okay to make a mistake professionally, to realize, you know what, this isn't aligned with my values. This isn't aligned with where I want to go in my career. This is not aligned with me parenting in the way that I want to. I know that there are a lot of people who can work, parent for a certain amount of hours, get their kids down, and then get back on and log on. And I just was exhausted. And also, I didn't want to rush through bedtime, didn't want to rush to get back on the computer. And I just felt so much was not in alignment with my values. Had changed, plain and simple. They just changed. And then being married to somebody who works in healthcare, who at a hospital, who does not have the option to work from home, who is exposed all the time, in the beginning, didn't know. So there was just stress on stress on stress. And I ended up taking a leave of absence from work to just work through some of that, and took a step back from the working Momtras to just get my mind right and deal with some of that, the mental health stuff, and deal with, like, okay, where has this achieving at any cost taken me? Oh, it's taken me to a leave of absence to get my mental health together. And I just realized that, like, I need to be okay with letting stuff go that's not aligned with who I am or my values or whatever the case may be, and not seeing it as a failure. That in a sense, that is an achievement, to be able to realize that, oh no, this isn't in alignment with my values. I need to figure something else out.
Yeah. Wow. So I love what you said about that. I love the depiction of the leave of absence. And I too took a leave of absence. So I can really relate to that in like mid-April of last year, before I left my job in December. But same thing. And I'm an 8. So, it's a little bit of a different motivation, but we're both aggressive personality types that like to execute well, right? And so we really go at it full throttle. And so what I like about what you said was, it literally took that leave of absence for you to be able to realize that you could create boundaries around what you actually desire versus what you think you desire, and I had a very similar experience for myself. So, I can relate to that, but it was like how fortunate we are to be able to take that time off and have jobs where we can, because I know that that's not something that everybody has access to. And I do want to acknowledge that, but to be able to admit to yourself, like, I am not well right now. And this is at the behest of not only me, but my family. And being able to reconnect with yourself and with what you actually want, and taking care of yourself and rediscovering your values. I think that's so important. Was it hard for you to let your work know that you needed time off, or did you feel like you were at that point where it's like, it is what it is?
It was really hard for me. And it was also a conclusion that I didn't want to come to. And honestly, I would have rather quit than and I, like, even saying that now, almost a year post, I realized, like, wow, like, I really wanted to protect my appearance that much that I was willing to not take care of myself and, like, the benefits that I have in order to take care of myself, because I wanted to control that perception. Like, I don't, obviously don't want anyone to think, I didn't want anyone to think, like, oh man, she really, like, doesn't have it together. That's a big thing about being a free. You want to be together. You want to be competent. You want to be cool as a cucumber. And I was not. Like, I was really frazzled and fried and not okay. And it really took my mom being like, you need to go on leave. Just go on leave. Don't quit your job. Pull yourself together. Take some time, and then decide, after you have, like, given yourself the space to recalibrate. And that was something that was really hard for me to come to the conclusion of, but I had to.
Yep. Yes. And so when you went back, 'cause you are back at work now, right?
I'm back.
Did you return to the same role, or did you adjust anything? Like, what did it look
I
like when
actually
you went back?
took a step back, and I had an opportunity to go back to my old team, and it's been great. It's been
Oh,
really,
good.
really great just to have that space of being in a role where I'm able to have better boundaries. And, I don't want to fault anybody on my old team or anything like that. It just wasn't a good fit. And things are allowed to not be a good fit.
Right.
And so just, I'm very grateful for how things worked out, because I did not foresee a world in the middle of a pandemic and like all these changes with corporations that I would be able to go back. I was like, okay, well, we'll figure something out. Like if I have to quit or whatever the case may be, I'll
Yeah.
figure it out. But it worked out and work is good.
That's great. And so how do you balance? I hate the word balance. Sorry, I used it, the B word. How do you make time for the working Momtras with your job and also with your cute little boys?
So at first I was really structured about my posts have to go out on Mondays, my email has to go out in the morning, like everything has to be ready by Sunday. And I realized like something that was bringing me joy was also starting to burn me out a little bit. And I also have to have a full-time job. Like that's not going anywhere. So I've really in the past few months given myself grace. Like I haven't posted a new mantra in a few weeks because I'm tired. And
Hmm.
we are all coming up on grief anniversaries of the pandemic. And we
Yeah.
are, I have a mantra that I haven't posted yet that I'm ready to share, but this has been a very triggering time. Even
Hmm.
just things that you think are like innocuous fun news, like Harry and Meghan being on Oprah, talking to Oprah. You think it's going to be a
Yeah.
fun popcorn, a little bit of gossip, a little bit of tea, right? But what it really becomes is an examination of a toxic workplace,
Yes.
racism, colorism,
Yeah.
classism, uh, institutional racism, and all of that is very triggering. It's a lot. So
Yes.
even little things on top of a couple months ago, we had an insurrection. Like all of this stuff doesn't just go away because our news cycle has moved on. We're still storing all of
Yeah.
that trauma somewhere. So I've really given myself a break and allowed myself to have rest, and am trusting that the audience that I have built and the community that I've built will understand. And if they don't, that's okay. But I'm not going to let capitalism and like how we view that like dictate something that brings me joy and that I know is a part of
Right.
my purpose. And so to answer your question, I'm just again allowing myself to see like where is my energy? Can I honor my capacity? Like do I have the energy to create something? Okay, last night I did, but I didn't have the energy to get on Canva and make a post and then schedule the post. So it's got to be a little bit late, and that's okay. So I think it just looks like giving myself grace and space to know that I have a lot of things that are inflexible. And right now, the working Momtras is a little bit more flexible.
Hmm. I love it. That's great. And I love what you said. I'm not going to let capitalism dictate something that brings me joy. Like there's so much, so much truth to that. And so much truth to the idea of the people that are there that find the value in your work aren't going anywhere just because you take a break. And the ones that might not be super engaged, or they are overly critical if you're taking too long, they can find another space to go, that might service them better, and no harm, no foul, right? Like, cool. So that's a great perspective. And it's especially refreshing coming from someone who leads with a type 3 motivation. Just, there's a lot of work done in that knowledge that you've done for yourself. And so I really appreciate that. So with the Enneagram, then, can you tell me a little bit about your journey with it, where like how it started and how you figured out your type, all that stuff?
Yes. So I would say I am 33 now, so right around my 31st birthday, a friend recommended that I read The Road Back to You. And so I got it. It was the first thing that I read. I started reading it on my birthday, and it really resonated with me. But I'd say probably since having kids, I've been in a state of stress. And so I always thought I was a 9, and I was cool with that. I was really cool with being a 9. And like, I think that when mistyping happens, you think like, this is an ideal type for me. At least for me, I was like,
Yeah.
peace, unbothered, so much of my personality anyway. But also I had a lot of friends who were 9s who were like, I don't know, you got a lot of goals. Have like a lot of stuff that you're trying to do. Like, I don't know that this is it.
You're pretty active.
Yeah, you're pretty active. So, right as I'm like stepping into this new job and I'm into it a couple weeks, I bought The Wisdom of the Enneagram, and I started reading about the 3 because it goes way more in depth. And I was like, oh shit, like I really think I'm a 3. I do not want to be this person. I don't want to be caring about how I appear to others. I don't want to be so achievement focused. Like I do not want to be this person. I just want to be the 9. But like the more I read, I was like, okay, it appears that I found the Enneagram in a state of stress. I'm not actually a 9, probably a 3. Okay. And I think one of the things that resonated most was it said something like, 3s need to focus on achieving what they actually want to achieve and not everything. You don't want to achieve everything. You really need to just focus on achieving like the things that are for you, the things that you are interested in, the things that you are meant to achieve, and you cannot possibly be meant to achieve everything. So that's why I say I'm a reluctant 3.
That is such a great example of why. Well, first of all, I love that you read a book and you didn't take a test. So let's start with that. I totally encourage people to learn about it holistically before you decide your type, because when we don't know and understand all of the 9 types, it can be easy to mistype ourselves. The second piece, though, is understanding that the Enneagram is based on motivation, that we develop motivation as children, right? And it's all about when the world gets to us. And they build these defense mechanisms as a response to that. And then they're permanent fixtures in our subconscious that get triggered as we respond to stimuli. And so when we look at the Enneagram, but we're looking at it from how we present in the present moment, we're not really reflecting on our true motivation. So it's not to say you can't find your type based on what the present moment is, but to your point, if you're under stress, or if you're in a super really good place, or, in support, or, for me, like I could have easily tested as a 3 because I worked for a large corporation. I was performance-based. There was a time where I was really excited about promotions and titles and things like that. But when it got down to it, like, these things really don't matter to me, because it was always easy for me to walk away or hand it back and say, no, thanks, not for me. So, but the behavior would say that you are a certain type, and it's not about behavior. And so this is a really great example of looking at that present behavior and then projecting that onto a type mistakenly, which happens, versus like focusing on that true motivation. And it's true when you feel uncomfortable, right? You felt like rejecting that you were a 3 because it made you feel yucky.
Yeah. And so like, dang, they really figured me out. They have turned the light on.
Feel seen naked. Yeah. 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 And so that's a great depiction. And I think that's going to shed a lot of light for people on this journey as to like some of the watch outs for this, and really understanding why that the tool is so powerful, but that the importance of figuring out your type and not rushing the process, which I'm not saying you did, but there is value in taking time to figure it out for sure. And so because you discovered the 3 motivation, I guess it would have been within the past year, right?
Mhm.
Versus the 9. How has that impacted your life?
I think it was really important that I found it out when I did, because then I could see like, oh, this is why I'm doing this. This is why I want to achieve this at this promotion so bad. This is why I want to
Mm-hmm.
appear this way to my colleagues and other people. This is why I'm trying to avoid taking this leave, because I want to be able to control other people's perceptions of me. And I think that having that knowledge really helped me to accept what was going on. I mean, it was really a way of seeing myself and seeing what was happening in real time, and also figuring out that this is really not sustainable.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, that makes sense. And similar situation where, my motivation was different, but just in realizing I don't have to be strong all the time. I don't have to carry all the things and protect everybody and, whatever that looked like in my head, and have all this power, real or made up. And for me, it was similar in that, like, I had to start letting stuff go, and it felt so good. It felt like relief, to be like, okay, I'm doing this for the wrong reasons, and now I know why I'm doing it. And this defense mechanism and this motivation has served me in life, but it no longer serves me, especially in this capacity. I'm going to let these things go now. And as you know, like, when we release things that are not in service of us, we create space. And when we create space, we fill it with what we want to fill it with, if we're being mindful and conscious about it. So it is really powerful to discover those things about us once we get through the initial shock of being uncomfortable with the shadow side of the types, because all 9 of them are really great and all 9 of them are really awful. They all have their own special fun nuances. So, but again, that's why I love the tool so much. It's so truthful, and it's not just focusing on the good, it focuses on the human. So I really like that. So how do you see the Enneagram showing up in the working Momtras in terms of, like, your type? Where does that come out?
I mean, I think just starting this thing and also
Mm-hmm.
having like, right, I feel like my long-term goals for it are big and they're lofty and they're scary, but I don't ever feel scared that I can't achieve them, because I feel like it's in
Mm-hmm.
alignment with what I'm supposed to be doing. And I think that, like, this is the work that I'm supposed to be achieving at. And it doesn't have anything to do with followers or posting a certain, like, Monday, Wednesday, Fridays, or like, it doesn't have anything to do with that. It has to do with, this is the work I'm supposed to be doing in the world. Like, there's a reason that I went through some of the things that I went through, and that I have this level of self-awareness, or that it feels right and good and true to tell moms that you don't have to do it all. Like, you get to define all for you, so you can achieve it.
Mm-hmm.
It feels right to come to the conclusion that my worth is inherent, and then be able to share that with somebody, because I know how hard it has been to come to that conclusion, and to be able to come to that conclusion and then be able to share it and give it to other people feels right. It feels good. It just feels very aligned.
Yeah. I love that you said my worth is inherent. I think every 3 needs to hear that. Every heart type, every heart center of intelligence type, the 2, 3s, and 4s need to hear that. My worth is inherent. I love that. Um, so, do you have anything specific about your business that you would like to share with everybody? Anything new coming up, or any exciting developments?
No exciting developments, just if this resonates with you, come join me, and feel free to connect with me on Instagram or in my DMs or however you want to. It's just, I feel that it's been a fun thing to do, and it has been wonderful to be able to hold space for moms in this way. And like I said, I don't know how things are going to evolve. I just know that they will continue to evolve. And I would love to have anybody who this resonates with be a part of that journey.
That's awesome. And where can people find you?
You can find me on Instagram at the Working Momtras, and that's Momtras. And then I have a website, theworkingmomtras.com. You can get on my email list. Those on my email list always get Momtras before everybody else. And yeah, that's it.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for spending some time with me today and dropping all that wisdom. I really appreciate it. I love talking to you, and I'm so glad that we get to meet in person virtually. That makes me really happy. I've been admiring you from afar, and I think your work is fantastic. I encourage anyone that this speaks to, please go follow Raena, because she has a fantastic handle and a lot to offer. So it's really nice to have you here. Thank you.
Thank you for having me. It's an honor, and I love everything that you're doing as well.
Thank you.